Greetings! It's been 6 months since the release of Resident Evil 4 Remake. The highly anticipated Separate Ways DLC has finally arrived, and within just a week of its announcement trailer too. So, does it hit? Or...
This could use some cleaning.
Well, it actually doesn't need any cleaning. And is nowhere near that stinky. I promise.
Trust me.
In fact, this is perhaps the most additive and well-rounded Resident Evil DLC that Capcom has ever released, especially given its price point, a measly $10. Yes, $10 USD for a largely linear but beautifully polished side campaign that complements and completes the main game in many aspects, be it the reimagined story that keeps us guessing on where exactly it'll deviate from the original, or the stylishly addicting combat system that exudes precisely the same type of energy as Ada herself. Her hookshot is a massive contributor to this. With it, Ada now possesses the ability to perform melee attacks from a longer range, both by pulling herself towards ledges near Ganados and by latching onto the foes themselves, bosses included, making for some more up-close and personal finishing blows. All sorts of exciting new applications arise for it depending on the design of the given set piece. Her new over-the-top melee moves combined with the return of the devastating blast crossbow really contribute to her distinct sense of identity. This robust array of options yields a uniquely fluid, agile, and dazzling combat experience that no other character can truly replicate. Such enhancements are only furthered by the fact that the same variety of difficulty options and weapon upgrades, including exclusive abilities, are made available to Ada here, unlike in the original Separate Ways, almost as if insisting that the DLC be viewed as a necessary extension of the main game, and rightfully so. So yes, it's certainly on par with, or even a neck above the core game in terms of combat depth. And as for graphical fidelity and music, what can I say? It's all just as stellar as the rest of RE4R, and the soundtracks are much more melodic and rhythmically engaging than the more atmospheric, stealthy tracks of Leon's campaign. The track Infiltration here, for example, sounds like a much fuller, more satisfying rendition than that of the main game, certainly more akin to the originals. Other reimagined tracks from the original Separate Ways exhibit a new kind of upbeat vigor that strikes me as particularly refreshing, since the bulk of the RE Engine remake soundtracks are rather subdued. Some of these reimagined tracks are brazen enough to just dominate the scenes they inhabit, and I'm here for it. In a nutshell, all presentation and gameplay elements are right on target here. But now we need to address the El Gigante in the room. The once thought to be cut content, the environments and foes from the original that so many have craved to see return in some capacity. Maybe not including this inane battleship encounter, which I'm totally not just angry about for killing me like 4 times during a recent stream. Seriously though, it can go die.
You can die.
But aside from that, Separate Ways delivers on reviving nearly every remaining combat set piece excluded from the main game. Beyond just repackaging them for the sake of doing so, each of them has been more meaningfully incorporated into the game's world building, furthering and capitalizing upon the wealth of lore already established by the remake. The waterway in which Leon originally battled Novistadors, for example, has now been tethered to the history of the Salazar bloodline. This underground area was presumably constructed by Count Gregorio to confine the deadly insects that troubled his predecessor, Count Ippolito, to a haven of purity, sealing them away from the townspeople. But after revealing the waterway's existence once again through the excavation of Las Plagas, Ramon Salazar has spoiled its sanctity by turning it into a hellish burial ground for the tortured and deceased remains of his opposition. So there's world-building additions like that. Cool. But now let's look at a more tangible, layered instance of thoughtfully reviving content from the original game, Pasantha. Aptly dubbed the Black Robe here, she exemplifies the DLC's larger goals of capitalizing upon the intrigue built up through the main game, and she very much deserves the spotlight she has been granted. Why? Because a huge portion of fans followed the fate of the devout Plaga researcher under Ramon, named Isidro, and the woman who served as the Salazar housekeeper, as the two malformed into Verdugo and Pasantha, respectively, the two elite fusions of human and insect, and the fruits of Isidro's ultimate objective. But while Verdugo failed to live up to his namesake of executioner, losing his battle and his life to Leon, no one could ascertain the exact fate of the other U3 in the Black Robe. But so many of us were left with that sizzling curiosity. This is a testament to the game's brilliant writing, to a story that was evidently designed with the accompanying DLC in mind, as she now serves as the stalking nemesis of Ada's scenario. But Pasantha's re-inclusion goes so much deeper than that. Just you wait. We learn that a servant of Isidro, Clemente, fled from his servitude out of fear and was irredeemably sentenced to being sacrificed for Lord Sadler. To serve this sacrifice, the beast in the Black Robe, Pasantha, infects Clemente with a unique type of plaga, allowing her to conjure up illusory doubles of herself in the consciousness of the host. This causes Clemente to see hundreds of her at once along with other sensory distortions, just as the player experiences through Ada. Pasantha makes quite the flashy entrance in Ada's very first enemy encounter of the DLC, after she rescues Luis from the castle. This trail of files on Pasantha allows the player to rationalize their puzzling first encounter with her, and really process the full extent of her transformation. This being was once merely a body for Ramon to fuse with to catalyze his final form in the original game. She is now a tragic corruption of the Salazar family housekeeper who was coerced into cooperating, a hound of judgment, a merciless issuer of psychological torment. Hasantha's presence accomplishes two things that really elevate this DLC story. Firstly, she contributes to Luis's sense of purpose in the larger picture, by infecting Ada during their first encounter. While Luis is initially suspicious of Ada's motives and affiliation,
No Amber, no deal. You know the terms.
We're good. What do you want with it anyway?
her infection urges him to take unconditional responsibility, to redemptively protect the victims of the plague he himself took part in creating, suppressing their growth.
They need this medicine. I know it works.
Why does this matter to me?
Because you two are infected.
And when the ingredients to create the suppressants are burned away, it's Ada that encourages him to concoct more of them, lifting him out of the spell of hopelessness.
Pull yourself together, Luis. Make more.
Yes, it is possible.
Each of them further drives one another to right their past and impending wrongs, to fulfill their newfound goals of saving innocent lives. And to top things off, when Ada finally does reveal her affiliation with Wesker right in front of Luis's face, he pays no heed to it at all, because he is so deeply entrenched in his quest for redemption that he feels compelled to help her.
Oh, that's not good.
That looks like something Wesker would want.
It all illustrates Luis's growth as a self-sacrificing character, and in retrospect, Pasantha helped initiate that growth. But secondly, and most amazingly, Pasantha serves as the best type of rival, exactly the type of foe that forces Ada to honestly come to terms with the person in the mirror. This is the true prize of Separate Ways. Pasantha is not merely a mindless, hulking behemoth like she might superficially seem to be. The enigmatic, illusory nature of her abilities is a reflection of Ada's own mode of operations, herself employing all sorts of deception and mental games. When Ada sees the infinite number of doubles produced by Pasantha, she is subconsciously reminded of the many masks she must wear herself, a different mask for Luis, for Leon, for Wesker, and, sadly, for herself. This painful division of her own psyche, mirrored by the illusory division of Pasantha, is in itself crucial to the essence of Ada as a character, and illustrates the excruciating task of self-concealment.
Which one are you? All of them?
a second coming of the conflicted anti-hero arc we saw in Resident Evil 2. The mental gymnastics she forced upon Leon, which by the way are wonderfully explored in the RE2 novel, have returned here, and when Leon asks her if she's changed at all since then, she tosses that mask back on without hesitation, throwing the question right back at Leon. It's so deeply embedded into her mind as the survival instinct that Leon alone isn't able to crack it. Pasantha, though, mirrors Ada's inner storm through the workings of her very biology more so than anyone else, suggesting a much more layered meaning to the question,
What is wrong with me?
in response to the deafening presence of her one true rival, herself, under the guise of Pasantha. And the only way to face herself and end Pasantha's tragic existence is to strip away her masks and examine the being at her very core, quite like she must strip Pasantha of her illusory skins and peel her down to the core of her evil. And thus, U3 is revealed, the parasite, pure and unconcealed. It may well be the physical manifestation of the root of Ada's own parasitic impulses, avarice, as Sadler asserts. The cold, selfish desire that clashes with her feelings of compassion, of sympathy, and the compromise of that desire is made clear when she ends U3 for good and very visibly re-examines her masks and her core in Ashley's presence and during her decision to change course, refusing Wesker the amber sample. If that isn't the most compelling avenue to reviving U3 through Pasantha, then I don't really care for what is. Pasantha effectively frames the entire thematic essence of Ada's introspective growth during separate ways, even driving Ada to the point of defeat in the village, after which Wesker must intervene. Yes, Wesker rescues Ada during that low point. Interesting. He's everything I wanted from RE Engine Wesker, and scarier too. Every one of his lines sounds as if he could snap you in half in the blink of an eye, but refrains from doing so to prolong that very fear, except for that one line, complete local saturation, because it's too funny. Savoring Wesker's added scenes is an exhilarating experience. The major lore change is that while Ada does refuse him the sample, which, by the way, she actually also did in the original continuity from 4 to 5, Wesker is able to retrieve Krauser's body, in which resides the amber. In the original RE5, he obtained Las Plagas through the black market, ostensibly with the help of Ricardo Irving, but here, Krauser's corpse effectively lands him in the same spot. What a DLC this is! It is unfailingly thoughtful in framing the series' direction. On top of illustrating the growth of Luis and especially Ada, there are a number of other, more straightforward lore additions that I don't feel particularly compelled to dive into, like Martinico, a test subject for the Amber with degraded mental faculties, but nigh indestructible physicality, but he kinda just exists so that the revived laser room has something to destroy. There are more Amber research updates too, probably the most significant one regarding Krauser's exceptional compatibility with it. The lack of any meaningful interaction between Ada and Krauser is the one thing this DLC didn't quite include, but I'm not sure that it really needed to. That's it for me. Let us know your thoughts on Separate Ways in the comments. If you'd like to see more of these combined review and analysis type videos on the channel, please let us know. I'll see you again soon, I'm sure. Until then, subscribe, or Wesker will find your home and ensure complete local saturation.
Complete local saturation.